All right, we're here for another edition of Lippe and Cain's Renovation World, and today we're going to be looking at the whole process of sheetrocking this particular landing, and I'm going to show you in some close-ups the specific areas that we're going to be looking at. And one of the exciting challenges about today is the fact that whoever built this house, the condo, if you can see, the cement comes out about an inch and a half. So there's a real challenge there. Tell us a little bit about how we're going to handle that challenge.
So now we're about to get ready to prep this wall to make sure that the new sheetrock that's going to go up has no creases in it. We're going to take a piece of 1/2 inch or 3/8 plywood, put it up here, cover this whole spot. It's going to bring it out to where this foundation is, which I should have done in the beginning when they built the home. But we're going to make it come out so when we put the sheetrock up, it's going to go up nice and smooth. There's not going to be a crease. You won't see any imperfections in the wall.
Sounds great. We're looking forward to doing that. All right, we're back here at Lippe and Cain's Renovation World, and we're looking at the particular segment where we're going to be cutting the plywood in preparation for laying the sheetrock, replacing the sheetrock, which we talked about in the existing segment. And Dan is going to take us through the process. He's made some measurements, or he's going to be making some measurements. So tell us a little bit about what we're going to be doing, Dan.
Basically, you're going to cut the sheetrock to the length that we need it. It's at 76 inches. Rip that down. And we're going to go slap it on the wall.
All right, sounds good. We'll show you the process, making cuts 76 inches, put that on the wall, and then once we show you the actual preparation process of the plywood, we'll put the actual sheetrock on and show you how that works.
Tuck this into place. Thing is,
Dan, tell the audience about what you're doing, what you just did right there.
I just basically tucked the piece of plywood behind the sheetrock.
Okay. So do we have to lift it up?
Can your side make it in all the way?
We're going to try. We're going to find out. This side is going to have to be pushed in. It seems like we're... Oh, it seems like let's just do what we just did and just screw it up. All right, once we screw it in,
Once we screw it in, it'll pull nice and tight against the existing studs here.
right. Okay. Ready? Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You?
Yeah.
Alright. Oh, look at this making up the space. Okay, you got that?
I do. I'm holding this right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm holding this right now, and we're getting ready to put some sheetrock screws in. And this is for the plywood, the 1/2 inch plywood, which is highly recommended when you have that problem with the cement coming out about an inch and a half or so. can see Dan's putting his whole weight behind it. That's all you have to do on a job of this magnitude.
Hopefully whoever built your condo didn't do the same stupid stuff this guy did. If they did,
Nice big piece of plywood.
yes. I'm going to step out of camera view for a second here. Get me.
Dan's just grabbing some sheetrock screws right now.
The makeshift step ladder. But we're having fun with
force. And he gets it right into the 2x4, puts his weight up against it, and it's very smooth, and we're not going to have the same problem that we had before.
Right. Oh, it's alright. You got casualties.
Casualties, yes. But you can see how difficult it can be when something like this happens. What inspired the builder to build it in such a way where there was cement coming out an inch and a half or so? It actually looked like the sheetrock was being pushed out, so it made it an aesthetic nightmare. But this time, it's really going to look very, very nice. And it's a nice piece of plywood too, you know? Very beautiful. Sometimes what actually happens is that a sheetrock screw can go in at an angle. You have to pull it out to make sure that it's even. Everything. Lippe and Cain's renovation world. We're doing the next segment to get ready for the sheetrocking, and Dan's going to be prepared to make some cuts on the sheetrock. We mentioned some of the measurements we had before, Dan.
Yep.
So we're ready to go.
Ready to go. This one's 75 1/4.
All right. So we bring the measuring tape all the way down here. 75 1/4 was what we had measured it to when we were downstairs in the last segment. And Dan is just going along the sheetrock, making the measurements, getting ready to make the cuts. I'm going to grab this, it's basically just an X-Acto knife that you can use, and just goes right along to make the cut. When you're using sheetrock, you use different tools depending upon what you're cutting as we go about. So he's just, the measurements have to be really precise, and that's what we're trying to do right now, is just making sure that that's the way it is. Otherwise, you have to go back, and it can get expensive. So that's, I'm going to try and get it right the first time. So again, just a basic X-Acto knife, and Dan is just applies a little bit of pressure, brings it down, and it's almost just going to fall with ease. It'll just come right down, and then this piece, once he gets the other side of it, will go right in front of the plywood. It's going to be really much better situation than it was before. You know, with the existing cement, it'll just be very, very smooth. To really see the difference. Just making the final cuts, and voila.
Voila. Next measurement.
So this is what we got here.
It's a cutoff.
It's a cut-off piece.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan's getting ready to make another measurement, which is
42 inches.
42 inches. right in and mix it. Be very, very precise. And it can happen sometimes with whether it's sheet rock, plywood, what have you, that you go too long, and it's always better to have a little bit extra if you need it for supplies. Lots of different types of sheetrock that you can buy, whether it's the 3/8, 5/8, depending upon the job that you're working on. So as you can see, Dan is very, very precise. Applies the slightest bit of pressure, and the 42-inch measurement on the sheetrock. Move this other piece out of the way, and then we'll be able to start putting that sheetrock up. And be nice and smooth before we paint. Look at his technique. Very slow, it's almost got a rhythm to it. And yeah, if you do the cut the right way with the X-Acto knife, it should just smoothly just kind of right through your hands. You don't need to apply a lot of force. That way you're not going to end up breaking the sheetrock. You don't want to have to do that. You save money that way. All right, so we've got our two pieces, and I think we're ready to start putting the sheetrock up, don't you?
Yes, we are.
All right. Right, we're back here for Lippe and Cain's Renovation World, and right behind me is Jessica Cain, Dan Cain's wife, and of course Dan Cain, and we're getting ready to put the sheetrock down against the concrete. And if you look real closely, you can see that Jessica is putting the construction adhesive getting a nice in a nice line so that it can be put down. And it's just a regular caulking gun that she has right there. And they get it in a nice line if you look at it, and then what you'll see is it'll just, the sheetrock, the actual sheetrock itself will just fit right into place. Making a nice little line there. Alright, we're back. Lippe and Cain's Renovation World, and we're ready to put this bottom piece in. We got the construction adhesive, which you saw in the last segment that Jess put into place.
Yep.
And we just have to very comfortably
snug it in.
Yep.
Kick in the bottom. Push that right in there. Get your knee in there.
All right. So getting a little low here, but you can see what we did. We've put the sheetrock in, and you can see what Dan's doing over here. He's putting in some sheetrock screws at this point right now. So what we're going to do is we will have one other piece. Okay, welcome back to Lippe and Cain's Renovation World. This is really the exciting part. We're going to be finishing the sheetrock job. If you look behind us, you can see that the plywood, very smooth in place. We're able to screw everything in, and it's going to be nice and solid after it's painted, and we won't have the previous problem we had before. Tell us a little bit about what we're going to be doing now.
Well, just to refer back to your previous problem, it was a big crease going across, whereas the foundation didn't meet up with the existing studs, so we took that plywood, put that in there to bring it out so there won't be any crease.
Right, so it's nice and smooth.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece of sheetrock here, I'm going to raise it, put it up in place, get it screwed in.
Yep.
After it's screwed in, we're going to move on to taping it and then putting some mud down. Once that mud dries, we're ready to sand do a little painting.
Right.
I'm gonna make it look like there was never any crease.
That's great. And what were you saying about when the sheetrock goes up? There's a certain catchphrase that you were.
The way we kept the first piece is we kept the factory edge on the top.
Right.
So as you see here, this is a factory edge. We didn't cut this edge. It came from the factory like that. And as you can see on this next piece, we cut the top edge. Factory edge is on the bottom. So we're basically just going to put both factory edges together to get a nice smooth seam.
Just goes right smoothly over it, and then we'll be able to apply the sheetrock mud. We get some Blue Hawk drywall screws that will just go directly in.
Yep.
Very easy to do, and you don't really have to worry about the studs and getting things right with the studs.
Not in this case.
Not in this particular case.
We got a solid backing for the whole area.
So that's what we're going to do right now. Let's go to it.
All right, let's get this piece of sheetrock in.
Slides right up. It's right into place, and it's very smooth on the seam. And get that.
You went on your side?
I am. All the way over to the left.
You want to hold it there for a minute?
I will.
We'll get a couple screws in so it doesn't fall.
Dan is going to use his screw gun, and there's different types of screw guns that you can use. Powered screw gun, and he's got some sheetrock screws. And once again, you just go right in, very smooth. You don't have to worry in this case that it's set on the stud. Apply a lot of pressure, get all your body weight behind it. And you can see that when Dan uses his own body weight against it, that you can see the actual sheetrock moving forward, moving in onto the plywood. Try a lot of pressure here. Anybody can do this. Get the right tools for it. Lowe's, Home Depot. Should be good. Should be able to let it go now. All right. Sometimes you want to make sure, towards the top, or that you have enough. Nothing's coming out. You don't want to have any of the sheetrock coming out. But you can see nice and smooth. Really a solid difference, and what a difference the plywood made to make this very smooth. Very extremely bizarre situation for the builder to have that. You'd say it's pretty bizarre, right? I mean,
Yeah, it was kind of strange that they wouldn't have taken up that space originally when they put it in.
right.
Not a difficult fix though.
All right. Looks like it's pretty much in. We're going to put in one more screw here. And again, different thin threaded drywall screws that you can pick up. Apply your body weight into it. It's nice and smooth when we get ready to do the next step, which is getting ready to do the sheetrocking, mudding, putting the mud and tape. All right, we're back for moving towards our final segment for Lippe and Cain's renovation world. I'm getting my muscle workout as I hold the all joint purpose compound, sheetrock compound, the mud, as we're getting ready to use that. You can get a gallon or so. You can probably get a lot less than this because the square footage of the area that we're sheetrocking, we're probably not going to need it all, but it's all-purpose joint sheetrock mud compound, one of the things that you need. And we've got the tools that we need. Let's talk a little bit about some of the tools that we're going to be using for this.
Okay, some of the things we will be using to apply this joint compound Chris was talking about. First, we have our joint tape. It's self-adhesive. We're going to put that on all the joints here. Second, we're going to be using simple trowel and a putty knife to apply all the joint compound to get it nice and smooth, to hide all the seams that we basically have with the two pieces of sheetrock we put on.
All right, we're back and we're ready to do the actual sheetrocking component. We've pulled together all the tools, Dan, and we've got our big, very massive bucket of joint compound sheetrock.
Right.
And we're going to start with the preliminary steps. So let's get started.
All right. So you basically just want to take that,
All right.
apply that right to the end, center it.
Tape.
Hope you don't want to overlap. Just get it right flush to the end.
Right. And this is the tape that goes between the two seams.
Yeah, it is self-adhesive.
Self-adhesive, yeah.
Push down on it
Yep.
with your hand, it'll stick.
Make sure that it stays in place, and then makes it easier so that sheetrock isn't going to move around, and sheetrock mud will go right in place. All right.
With that one seam done, the next seam we're going to need to do will be the corners.
Okay.
The corners are a little trickier.
All right. So Dan's going to do over here, and again, using the sheetrock tape that he showed in the other segment as he goes along the whole seam. You can even use the sheetrock mud as a little bit of a stool when needed. See, very nice, very gently gets the corners right in place. There's an X-Acto knife so that you can make the cuts when needed. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Just put my fingers right in there. Adhesive tape, anything, Lowe's, Home Depot, any place like that, you can pick it up. Whether you're doing a bathroom or doing a landing kitchen, it's the same set of tools. And we're coming right to the end of the link. Very, very smooth. So you can see where the corner where the two seams meet. There's no room for the sheetrock to shift around, which you really wouldn't anyway when you make sure that everything is screwed in very solid. All right, how's it looking there with the bottom of the tape, my friend?
Good. Make sure it's nice and stuck down.
Right. Gotta be smooth when you're applying the sheetrock mud.
Okay, here we're gonna put the corner tape on.
Okay.
Seal up the corner.
Yeah, you showed us the corner tape before, and it's the same process as we applied with the other seam, with the other two pieces of sheetrock width, and now we're doing it lengthwise. You can just see that he ever so gently applies the tape. You gotta make sure it's very smooth in preparation for the sheetrock mud. Very smooth, going all the way down. And Dan, again, he cuts the tape with an X-Acto knife going down towards the end. And this is all the preparation or preparatory work for actually putting the actual sheetrock mud in between the seams, all the seams.
Okay.
All right.
There you go.
So that looks good.
Okay, so now we're going to start applying the joint compound. A lot of times you get it, it's a little soupy. You don't want to put it on the wall, it's soupy. kind of spreading it around like this, mixes it up. Drop a little, it's usually okay as long as it's not on carpet. Cleans up very easily. And nice coat. Try to hide the seams. Yeah, kind of keep the trowel at an angle. Not sure the particular angle, but as you can see, it's maybe like a 35-degree angle, just to try to apply it properly. Every time you grab a new little wad of mud, you want to flip it around a little bit. Anything like this is easy to clean up afterwards. You just kind of want to make sure you get the seam as smooth as possible. So once you're done sanding, you won't see any seams at all. It'll look seamless. Any imperfections that you see after the mud dries typically should be easy to sand out using just a regular hand sander, powered or not powered. Trying to fill in the space between the pieces of sheetrock here in the corner. So when the mud dries, there will be no visible gaps. It will all look like one consistent piece of sheetrock. Even though I'm using a different trowel here to apply the sheetrock mud, I'm still trying to stay consistent with that angle I was talking about earlier.
finishing up our segment here, second episode of Lippe and Cain's Renovation World. Very happy. Think that it went very well. We completed the whole sheetrocking job as we thought we would. Managed to put plywood in to even out the sheetrock. The very important thing to remember is the factory edge. When we were able to cut the two pieces of sheetrock together, needed to make sure that the factory edge was together. And Dan, yeah, I think it went really well. So tell us a little bit about the process of what we did, just sort of going over things with the plywood and everything else.
Okay, this is the trowel and the sheetrock cutting knife that we used. What I showed you earlier, I basically scooped some mud out of the bucket using this cutting knife, put it right on the trowel, kind of scooped it up again, you just mix it a few times, get that all ready, get smooth out on your wall. We'll get everything nice and sanded and smooth. Get the wall prepped for the next step, which will be painting.
Right, so everything, you can see the factory edge, the seams, very smooth in back of you here. We're finishing our final segment here, Lippe and Cain's Renovation World. We completed the sheetrocking. Right behind us, as you see, everything went very smooth. The sheetrock mud dried very well. I was very happy with that. All it really requires is having a few simple tools to make it happen. One of them is the drywall tape, very important. You can get this at Lowe's, Home Depot. There are different types of brand. And when the sheetrock mud is dry, you need to make sure that this tape goes along the factory edge very, very smooth before the sheetrock mud is applied. You really got to be secure. Right. We've run into that with this and other jobs that we had as well. So really just make sure that it's very tight around the edges, that you're usually probably going to be working a job with yourself and somebody else. I mean, rarely they'd be doing just one person doing it, even if they were doing it at home. So again, mold resistant drywall tape, Lowe's, Home Depot, you can go to those places. There's all different types of brands, but just make sure that it's very smooth, it's very secure before you put the sheetrock mud down. So there's that. Some of your basic tools here, and again, you were showing them the whole process of the putty knife, and then the sheetrock trowel, and using one and kind of mixing it and making sure that it's really smooth.
Yep.
And that's really important, because you want to make sure that it's very, very smooth, because that's originally the problem that we had, was the fact that it was with the cement. We wanted to fix that.
Which is no longer a crease.
No longer a crease, yeah. So that's something as well. The plywood.
Yeah.
We got to remind them on that. You want to say anything about the plywood, or?
I just remember earlier we had the concrete down here that was sticking out about a ½ inch more than the studs on the wall. So we went ahead and took that ½ inch up with some plywood and made it so there's no more crease. It's all nice and even. Looks beautiful.
Really does. It looks great. I mean, it's sometimes you have that problem with a previous contractor, the way they put the sheetrock up, and it looks like the wall's sticking out. So you got to be ready for things like that. And then it's finishing up our segment here. You're pretty much ready to. It's been sanded down, so they're ready to paint. And then the sheetrock mud, which is down here, is a big bucket. There's all different types of sheetrock mud that they can get. So we've showed you all the tools that you need. The sheetrock mud, very important. There are different types of brands that you can get. Usually you want to buy about a gallon or so. In this particular case, the square footage on the landing wasn't that wide, that long, but you usually end up doing other rooms, so it's good to have a gallon or even two gallons of good solid sheetrock mud. You can buy that at Lowe's, Home Depot, places like that, all different types of brands. It's good to have something that can just go right on, where you don't have to mix it in water to make the sheetrock mud. It usually takes a lot longer to do it that way. And
pre-mix is the best.
Yeah. And usually, what do we say? Is it 24 hours you want to let it?
Right. Yeah. Let it sit 24 hours before you even touch it.
Right. All right, so that concludes our second episode of Lippe and Cain's Renovation World. Just remember that you can get all these tools here, very easy to use, and we'll see you next time.